Hey YouTube, Joe Walker here at Def Digits Guitar Lessons, and I'm doing a live lesson right now for my student Seth, who needs to get an introduction to bar chords and power chords. I'm going to start with bar chords, even though they are physically more difficult to do than the power chords. Power chords don't take as much physical exertion to make them happen, but bar chords are a little bit more straightforward to learn, I think. So for a bar chord, the essential element is that you have your first finger going all the way across the strings. And right now I'm going to use the 5th fret as our example. 5th fret, my first finger is all the way across the strings. And to get this finger working the right way for a bar chord to work, I want that finger pressing down all the strings so that they're all clear if I did this. That's not the bar chord I want. That's not a very pretty chord. It's kind of mushy. But that's what I want my first finger to be doing before I put my other fingers in for their roles. So this is the first thing that you can check. I'm doing this on electric because it's easier on electric. Usually acoustics have thicker strings and higher action, meaning the strings are farther from the fret, so it's harder to press them all down at the same time with that soft part of the back of your finger right here, as opposed to the tip of your finger. But work with whatever you got. I originally had to learn bar chords on a very old, very hard to play acoustic guitar, so it can be done. And I didn't quit. So the crucial thing in order to get all 6 of those notes to ring out is to get your first finger right up against the fret. If it's back a little bit or if it's crooked like this, then you'll have parts of that finger that are not close enough. You'll have to really, really press hard to even have a chance of getting those notes to come out. So make sure you're in a really good position right up against the fret. If I get it in the best spot I can do right now, from a straight on view, you can't even see the fret anymore. You can see it maybe from this angle. You can see that it's there and I'm not quite on top of it with my finger, but that's kind of what it looks like from straight across. Looking from up above and the way I can feel it, I can tell that I'm not directly on top of it. I can feel that I'm leaning up against it. And I'm leaning up against it sort of with this side of the finger, the side that's closer to the thumb. If I could show you the indentations on my finger right now, there we go. You can see they're on that side of it. They're not flat on the, I don't know to call this the front or the back of the finger. The front of the finger. They're not straight on the front of it. They're over here on the side. And you can see that if you look carefully, I've got my finger rolled over to that side just a little bit. And that seems to help getting it on the side of the finger is a little bit straighter and firmer than the front face of the finger. And that's going to allow us to use these other fingers more efficiently. The other thing that's going to trip you up is you'll have the little indentations where your knuckles bend. Right here, the creases in your skin. Probably some string is going to fit right in there and it's not going to get pressed down. I had that problem all the time when I first started doing bar chords, and it's just a matter of if it doesn't work there, just pick up your finger, scoot it just a millimeter, the smallest amount that you can scoot it up or down, and see if you can find a place where all 6 strings are being pressed down at the same time. And when you do this, you want to try to end up with the tip of your finger right here on the 6th string, the low E string. We're going to call these root 6 bar chords and root 6 power chords because the root of the chord, the lowest note, is down there on the 6th string, root 6. So we want the tip of the finger down there pretty close to the 6th string. We don't want it going all the way up like this. And we don't want it coming too far down because then you won't be pressing it. So tip of the finger on the 6th string, first finger pressing all 6 strings down. Next, we're going to do a minor bar chord because we use fewer fingers for that. 3rd finger goes to the 7th fret on the A string. 4th finger goes to the 7th fret on the D string. So they'll have to scrunch in together to get there on the 7th fret. Your pinky will be right up against the fret and your ring finger will just be as close as it can get because it might not have the space to get all the way in there. So now what you should get is 6 clear notes like this. And I think it's okay to use your 2nd finger as a splint to also be pressing down on the 1st finger. Whenever I play a bar chord, I notice that I do that all the time when I play a bar chord. It seems like I end up using less force with my left hand if I have 2 fingers pressing down like that together. But if you're going to play any other type of chord, you don't have that splint option. So don't come to rely on it. So with a minor, we get the frets we're hearing are fret 5, 7, 7, 5, 5, 5, like that. Make sure you've got 6 clear notes. If you don't, probably need to fix that bar. That's going to take a while to fix that. Good news is that the more you work on your bar chords, you get calluses here. And when you have a callus there, it makes it so much easier to press the strings down. So if you stick with it, then they will get easier just automatically from that callus forming. Next, we do the major chord. You bring your second finger in on the G string, 6th fret. So now we get this sound. Right there is the major chord, the major note. Both of these chords, the minor and the major, can get moved around. So we might play here, this note is A, our root note. So this is an A major chord. If we move that root note up 2 frets to the 7th fret, we play a minor chord there. That's what I was playing at the beginning of this, coming from Chris Stapleton, Tennessee Whiskey. A major and B minor. So you can move those around anywhere. Any root that you need on the low E string, you can find that root and build a major or minor chord off of it using that bar chord technique. They will feel different down here on the 1st fret versus all the way up here on the 11th fret, for example. They can be done anywhere. They just get really impractical when you go way up here. And you'd probably be better off just using part of that chord if you're trying to play it way up here rather than all of it. Let's see, let's switch to power chords before we go to root 5. A power chord, if we take that same technique of bar and then fingers 3 and 4 coming in like that, we're going to take that first finger and we're not going to press it all the way across. We're going to keep it straight like this. The tip of your finger is still going to be on the root note, but the rest of that finger is going to be muting the other strings, just barely touching them. So if we just look at your first finger, it's functioning like this. 1 clear low note, the root, and then 5 clunks after that. That's how we're going to get a power chord. Bring fingers 3 and 4 in on fret 7, so we get fret 5, 7, 7. Then the rest are clunks. And those are important because when you play a power chord, you're not going to play it like that. You're going to play it like that. And when you do that, you have no control over which strings you hit. You're probably going to hit all of them every time. So you have to have that muting going on over here in order to not let those strings ring out. So that's all the root 6 stuff. Ditto with how you find different chords on power chords. You'll move it up and down the string, find your root note. If you need a G power chord, you have to figure out which note is a G. It's the 3rd fret. Play your G power chord there. Now let's move everything to root 5. Remember I said root 6 was your root on the 6th string? Root 5 means your root is going to be on the 5th string. Let's do power chords here first. So now your finger has to function in a slightly different way, your first finger. You're still going to be pressing down only on the root and muting everything else. But now we've got those strings are under your finger, muting like it was before, but you also need to mute the low E string. You do that with the tip of this finger. It's just barely touching the low E string so it gets muted. And that harmonic that we hear, little farty noise, is going to get drowned out by the chord when we actually play it. So we don't need to worry about it as long as you're muting it and it's somewhat going clunk and it's not a sustaining note like that. So we get your root note. Your first finger is now muting all the other strings. Your root is on the 5th string and your first finger is muting everything else. And fingers 3 and 4 will come in on fret 7 of the D string and the G string this time. So now our 6 strings should function like this. Clunk, 5th fret, 7th fret, 7th fret, clunk, clunk. And that's a D chord, a D power chord, because that note right there is a D. That's our root note, so that the chord must be D. And again, you can move that all the way up and down to different root notes. There's a B power chord on the 2nd fret, an F sharp power chord on the 9th fret. Wherever you need it to go, your root note will tell you what the chord is. And the technique will be the same all the way up and down, except down here, farther apart, spread apart, and up here will be scrunched up together. Let's look at bar chords, root 5 bar chords. Let's look at minor first again. So we got the power chord. Remember how we converted between the bar chord and the power chord is the bar chord is pressing all the way across. So first finger is going to be pressing down 5 strings, but still muting the low E string when we do a root 5 bar chord. So we should get this sound with just the first finger, clunk on the low E string, and then 5 clear notes because you're pressing them all down. Let's bring in third finger on fret 7 of the D string, fourth finger on fret 7 of the G string, just as with the power chord. Middle finger, second finger is going to go on 6th fret of the B string, right there. So now we get that for our minor chord. Clunk on the low E string, then fret 5, 7, 7, 6, 5. And we can move that up and down to different places. There's B minor, F sharp minor, E minor, D minor. When we go to major, this one's kind of tough. And there is sort of a shortcut to this, which I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you what the official way, the official looking way, or the conventional way to write it is, but I don't think that's the usual way that this gets played, because it's very difficult. I got it, and I usually don't get it. It's clunk down here, fret 5, and then your third finger is going to hit fret 7 on the D string, and the G string, and the B string. Get some different angles of that. My third finger is bent backwards like this, so you get the pad of that finger across 3 strings. And then the high E string, your third finger is not on the high E string, that's 5th fret, first finger. So you really have to like break this finger backwards in order to get it out of the way of the high E string. So the way I usually play that is I'm a little lazy about it. I just play the middle 4 strings. And I let the back of my third finger mute out the high E string. So it still has to swoop out of the way to make sure it's not just fretting straight across like that. And then I get a different chord that I don't want. I just want to hear those 4 middle strings, then the high E string will go clunk. And that is a perfectly legitimate D major chord. So in this case, I don't even need my first finger bar anymore. It is a bar with the third finger across those 3 strings, but you have a little more leverage with this technique than if you were trying to go flat straight across all of them. So again, you can move it up and down. There's D major, move up to 7th fret, your root on the 7th fret. That's E major, move it down to 1st fret, B flat major. So there you have it. We've got bar chords and power chords, root 6 and root 5. There are 2 bar chords, root 6, major and minor. 2 bar chords, root 5, major and minor. And then the power chords look the same all over the place. Except when you go to root 5, you do need to mute out that low E string. Notice throughout all of this, I've got this low wrist hand position to play a power chord, or a bar chord in this case, power chord, bar chord, power chord. Wherever I go with these chords, my first finger has to be straight, parallel to one of the frets. So I have to use this technique with my wrist down to make this happen. If I approach the guitar from behind the neck with my thumb over the top, I call this the strong grip. If I do this and try to play bar chords or power chords, look at my first finger. It's not going to happen. I can't straighten it out to make this work from this position. I have to have a low wrist with lots of space here between the palm of my hand and the guitar. And my thumb will be straight on the back of the neck like that, countering the pressure from my first finger, and then the other fingers can do their work. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.